Hello, everyone, and welcome to Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories. I'm your host, retired NYPD Sergeant Bill Cannon, a 27-year veteran of the NYPD. You know, folks, this case, Stephan Sterns, of course, Madeline Soto, it's taken some different turns since the beginning. Of course, we all know it started out as a missing persons case, and it's developed into something much more devious, much more horrific. And every day we hear, we heard those new charges, 60 new charges that went, the state attorney general's office issued against Stephan Sterns, this horrific individual you're seeing on the screen right there. And just listing these charges, 8 counts of sexual battery on a child under 12, 5 counts of sexual battery with a child 12 to 18, 7 counts of lewd and lascivious molestation, 40 counts of unlawful possession of materials depicting SA performance by a child, S performance by a child. I'm sorry, I'm trying to use the euphemisms for the substitute words so that YouTube doesn't find this offensive. But this is a case that is it is offensive. You know, it touches so many people, because when I read the chat, and I have people from all over the world joining this show, I realize how many people are living the life that Madeline Soto was living, this tortured little girl. And it breaks my heart to hear, even in the chat, that there's people that are living or have lived the same type of abuse as this little girl you see on the screen, that she endured for anywhere from 2.5 to 3 years. Some say it even goes back longer than that. That's what the investigation is doing now. They're doing a deep dive into this savage you see on the screen, you know, going back into his life. And, you know, some of the things, I sort of pride myself. I'm a retired NYPD Sergeant, Manhattan North Homicide Squad, 16 years in the Detective Bureau, 6.5 years as a boss and as a cop in anti-crime. So I paid my dues, you know what I mean? I can walk the walk, and I feel that gives me the right to talk. But I see so many of these content creators on YouTube just inventing stuff. And you don't even have to invent anything on this case, because this case is horrific enough without having to make stuff up. The one channel where an alleged friend of Stephan Sterns calls up and starts telling him all the things he knew about him. That guy's a piece of shit. If he knew all of these horrific things about him, why is he telling it to a content creator on YouTube? Why didn't he report this to the police? That is also why I doubt that guy's credibility, you know, and people gladly put morons like this on their show. I just find it offensive, you know, and I'm not naming the YouTube content creator that put this guy on. And then all of these other conspiracy theories. You don't need conspiracies right now. What we need right now is to solve this murder. And I believe that's what the Kissimmee, I've been told I say Kissimmee wrong, Kissimmee or whatever. I say it with a New York way of saying it, and people have told me, you're saying it wrong. It's not Kissimmee, it's Kissimmee. Okay, I think I got it right now. If that's my only sin for the day or my worst sin, I'm not doing that bad. I've been told I pronounce many things incorrectly. Zoe 413 is discussing that these friends didn't report him years ago. Zoe, you're preaching to the choir. That's exactly what I'm trying to say. You know, like all this stuff coming out now, everyone knew this guy was a dirtbag and he's living with a little girl, and you didn't report it to the police. That's why, as I said, I have serious doubts that this guy is credible, 1. And 2, if he is credible and this stuff is true, then why didn't he report it to the police, not to a content creator on YouTube? It's disturbing to me. And, you know, other things too, you know, people, as I said, sensationalizing a case that's already sensational and horrific enough without having to sensationalize it. And we're all waiting for numerous things. And I'm going to go over a lot of those things today. What potentially could Stephan Sterns, and there's the thumbnail, what sentence could Stephan Sterns receive if convicted? And we're talking right now for the charges minus the murder. Once the murder charges come in, which I have no doubt they will, then this dirtbag is facing the death penalty, you know. And I think most of the people out there, and I know they keep changing every state that has the death penalty, the way it's administered. Most people will have no problem in a case like this. Most people. There's still people that are anti-death penalty no matter what the situation. And that's another story. That's another conversation. Anyway, folks, hang on to your hats. Hang on to your seats. You're about to enter true crime from a police perspective. You're about to enter the off-the-cuff zone. The police off-the-cuff zone.
There has to be some common sense.
Yes, sir. They have the car stopped at 10th and Ranch Microbizer.
We still don't know who pulled the trigger.
You know, many of you folks in the chat also bringing up the specter, of course, that Stephan Sterns will be the most hated inmate inside. Right now, he's in jail. He's not in prison because he's not convicted, right? He'll be the most hated inmate inside that jail because people are charged even with crimes like this. Not popular amongst the inmate population. City of Kissimmee PD. This was just the other day. This meme you see on the screen. Shortly after Madeline Soto's disappearance, several disturbing images and videos were found on Stephan Sterns' phone. The City of Kissimmee Police Department quickly arrested Sterns, who remains in custody with the Osceola County Department of Corrections on no bond. The investigation revealed images and videos depicting criminal acts. The Kissimmee Police Department provided this evidence to the state attorney's office, which found cause to file the following charges. And of course, there's the charges that we just previously read to everyone. You know, my big problem with this is that, and what a lot of us in the true crime community, content creators, audience members, people that follow this, we're getting impatient, but we have no right to get impatient because the police are doing their job, and they're doing a great job because they're taking their time. And one of the ways I know they're doing a fantastic job is nothing has leaked. Nothing has leaked out about the investigation. Nothing has leaked out about the autopsy. Nothing has leaked out about the potential a toxicology report that usually takes from 6 to 8 weeks to come out. None of those things have leaked out. So that means that the police are doing a fantastic job. So the state attorney general's office filed 60 new charges against Madeline Soto's mother's boyfriend. And this was on Tuesday. He's not yet been charged with the murder of the 13-year-old, despite law enforcement's belief that he allegedly moved a body which was found in rural Osceola County on March 1st, several days after she was reported missing. Sterns remains in custody at the Osceola County Jail. He was arrested on February 28th and charged with sexual battery and possession of child sex abuse material. Sterns was arrested by the Orange County Sheriff's Office, but was transferred to Osceola County, the county which he resides in. Everything we know about Madeline Soto's disappearance murder investigation, the 36-page affidavit highlights 60 new charges, and I'm not going to go over them again, but you can actually pull up this 40-page document online, and it outlines what he's being charged with. The document doesn't name a victim. The document doesn't name, but does include a date range of how long Sterns has allegedly been in possession of graphic materials or when the alleged abuse started, June 19th, 2019. That range tops out on February 26, 2024, the day Madeline Soto was last seen. A previous affidavit from the Kissimmee Police Department said that Sterns performed a factory reset on his phone on that day. There's some new details that Stephan Sterns may have abused Madeline Soto years before her disappearance and death, according to the affidavit. While it remains unclear who the victim or victims are, if one of them was Madeline Soto, she would have been 8 years old when the alleged crimes began. This is just even more horrific. We're hearing this. The affidavit said Sterns was in a position of familial or custodial authority when he allegedly committed a handful of these sexual batteries. It also remains unclear exactly how many images Sterns was allegedly in possession of, but each count says he was in possession of 10 or more images. It gets more graphic, and I'm not going to read the whole thing. Just suffice it to say that these are horrific charges. I don't think that we could even invent something that is this bad. This guy, when you see his picture this was from his Facebook page, and this clown used to work at Disney World, and so even in that position, he had access even to more children. And my question always is, in cases like this, how many other victims does this guy have? There's bound to be way more than Madeline Soto.
Stephan Sterns will never get out of jail if convicted of the 60 new charges filed against him this week.
Yeah, that is what a former officer turned professor says about the lead suspect in 13-year-old Madeline Soto's death. Watch News' Megan Mulatto found out why there is still no charge specifically for her death.
No matter what, he's not getting out of jail.
Professor of Forensic Studies at Florida Gulf Coast University, David Thomas, says if Stephan Sterns is convicted, he will never see a day outside a jail cell.
Originally, they charged him, I think it was 1 or 2 charges in the very beginning. And that's fine because they got him off the phone. And so now what they've done is they've done a complete forensic analysis. There's no doubt in my mind that's exactly what they did. And he has recorded almost every incident that he had.
Sterns is the lead suspect in the death of 13-year-old Madeline Soto. He was arrested for several charges, including sexual battery with a child, after detectives found pictures and videos on his phone. Then they found more evidence, leading the state attorney's office to file 60 new charges against him Monday, including 40 counts of unlawful possession of materials depicting sexual performance by a child and 8 counts of sexual battery on a child under 12. The charges, enough to be sentenced to life in prison if convicted.
Capital felonies means that he'll face life, he'll be in prison for life. And there's no doubt in my mind they have the evidence to secure, to make those charges, they have the evidence to support that.
Thomas says now the question is life in prison or the death penalty if Sterns is charged with Madeline's murder. He says there's likely already enough circumstantial evidence to charge Sterns with murder, but he thinks detectives with Kissimmee Police want to make sure their case is sealed.
Is give law enforcement and give the medical examiner's office an opportunity to do their job, because it takes time to do a great forensic analysis. Is they want to make sure that justice is served and served properly. In
Kissimmee, Megan Mulatto.
So, everyone wants to know, why is a trial date been set? Malligator, why a trial date already set as of today, but no murder charge? Because Malligator, the charges they already have him for, they can set a trial date for that, and they could proceed with that case. And while that case is going on, they could continue to investigate the murder charges. And how powerful would it be if they bring him to trial and they get a conviction and he gets basically life without parole? Because for these 60 new charges, he's not eligible for the death penalty. Everyone thought he was because there's a new Florida law that passed in 2023, but there's something called ex post facto. And what that means is that a defendant can't be charged for something that he did at an earlier date for a new law. That's basically, in layman's terms, that's basically what that means. So they can go proceed with the 60 new charges and the charges they originally had him for. And for that, they have tremendous evidence, and they're even building that digital case as we speak. Do you think they stopped or do you think they looked at his computer at home, potentially other cell phones, and interviewing witnesses? I mean, I mentioned this guy who went on another YouTube channel and started saying all the things he knew about him. My question was, why are you telling a content creator on YouTube, why don't you go tell the police what you know? And then the police will do a background on that and see if they can verify the things that this person is saying. What about, and this has really changed a lot since I first started covering this case, Jennifer Soto. Is there anyone now that thinks she's innocent in this, that she had nothing to do with this? Is there anyone? I think it's hard to believe. I think it's very hard to believe that she has no culpability in this. When we hear the horrificness of these charges and how far potentially they'll go back, is there a person in the damn chat who believes that Jennifer Soto has nothing to do with this? That's what it was like. Betty Spaghetti, thank you so much. Bill is awesome, long-time listener. Thank you, Betty. And thank you for, you're basically talking about what had occurred to you. It takes tremendous courage. And I think that when people talk about that in the chat, I feel good because it makes me feel like they're comfortable enough to talk to people in this family, this YouTube and this police off the cuff family. So thank you so much for that. Claire Johnston from the chat, will it go to trial? Twos, then ones for the 60 charges, and again, if they slap it with a murder charge. Claire Johnson, they would be two totally separate cases. These 60 charges that the state attorney general's office has leveled, that's a whole other ball of wax. The murder in itself is a whole different case. And the thing is, with the murder, it is a capital crime because there's an underlying felony in regards to the murder. And that makes it, and the age of the victim and the underlying felony make that a capital murder. So Stephan Sterns will be eligible for the death penalty for that. So smiling Stephan, he's not smiling anymore. He will be eligible for the death penalty in that case. And look, everyone, I think, has zero sympathy for this guy. In almost all cases, I always get a million people always say to me, "Oh, you're so pro-prosecution. He's innocent till proven guilty." I'm not hearing that crowd today, and I recognize that too. That's our system. Stephan Sterns is innocent till proven guilty. But is there anyone out there, based on the evidence they have right now, and I'm not talking about the murder. I believe he did the murder too. But all of these images and all of this, he hung himself. And don't forget, consciousness of guilt, right? He tried to do a factory reset on his cell phone to get rid of all these images on the same day that Madeline disappeared. He tried to do a factory reset. Consciousness of guilt. Guilty mind, as they call it.
Maddie Soto case, Stephan Sterns is now facing 60 new charges. Court documents show his alleged crimes go all the way back to June of 2019. The charges include 13 counts of sexual battery on a child, 7 counts of molestation, and 40 counts of unlawful possession of material depicting sexual performance of a child. Investigators say the images were found on his phone during the search for Maddie. So far, no murder charges have been filed in this case. We're going to get to more on that in a second. Stearns expected in court next month. And former Orlando Police Chief Orlando Rolone, our good friend, joins us live this morning to talk about this. Good morning, Orlando. Good to see you.
Good morning, Ryan.
Let's start with just the reaction to these charges. I mean, they're hard to even read, and you think this is a 13-year-old. What's your reaction?
Well, it goes to show that this is a very active investigation, and they're looking into everything that they can to ensure that this individual is held accountable for his actions.
One thing that stood out to me in reading these charges were charges under 12. Maddie just turned 13. That means this was at least going on for a year. I mean, that's one of the societal concerns, is this is a girl that was trapped seemingly without help.
And it's a very sad situation, and also shed some light into how far back they're looking into his activity around her and anyone else who may have been present at the time.
Now, there are a lot of charges. One thing we do not see is murder. You've dealt with law enforcement a lot. You know there's a process going through that. So are you surprised he's not charged with murder yet? What might they be waiting for to bring that charge?
Well, you know, it's one thing to have probable cause, but it's one thing to have overwhelming evidence that would hold an individual to be charged or found guilty of an offense. So I think the state attorney and the lead agency in this case are making sure that they check everything and anything that may be questioned during their process before they decide whether any additional charges will be made or not.
Is this a case we saw where Orange County's already changed what they do? Certainly law enforcement looks at these and they try and think, how can we help prevent this from another kid to happen in the future? When you look at what work investigators still have to do, how much of that goes into it when you try and prevent this as best you can from happening again?
You know, every time you hear of an unfortunate or a tragedy that occurs anywhere in the nation, there's always a change. A positive change comes from it, from lessons learned. And this is an example that, unfortunately, from the loss of this little girl, now we have something that is being put in place that I'm sure will be applied throughout the state, if not many states in our country, that will help others, hopefully prevent others from being harmed if some notifications are made early.
Yeah, because as Amy said earlier, it wasn't going to change the outcome in this case, but it might just in the second case and in the next case, and that makes a big difference.
Correct.
Anything else we should watch for as this moves forward, Chief?
I think give time to the lead agency and the state attorney to, come up with their findings. And eventually, I'm sure they'll do an update on what's going on. But right now, it appears that this is a very, very active investigation, and it'll take some time before it's solved.
Finally, when you look at anyone connected with him, how long might that take? Maybe it will turn out he acted on his own. If anyone else knew, might they be charged also?
Absolutely. If there's anything that may lead to someone else being involved, rest assured that the law enforcement agency and the state attorney's office will explore all of those options, and they will bring those individuals to justice.
As a case that has become high profile, and of course, we'll continue to follow it. Always great to have you in.
So, I mean, that's what I've been telling everyone all along, is that he's the number one suspect, of course, in the murder of Madeline Soto. And the police, it's sort of a luxury, and I don't know if that's the correct word, but they have him not going anywhere. So they have these charges on him that's keeping him in jail. He's not going anywhere. In fact, prosecution wants to set a trial date. The defense, I'm sure, would be in no rush, but the prosecution wants to move forward with that case. Now, if they did not have these charges against him, they would have probably arrested him already for the murder, because they do have probable cause. And again, if you don't know what probable cause is, I'm going to define it for you right now. It's facts and circumstances that would allow a reasonable person to believe that a crime has been committed, and the person arrested committed the crime. That's probable cause. So it's not beyond a reasonable doubt. That's what the prosecution has to prove at a trial, beyond a reasonable doubt. Probable cause is a much lower level of proof, of standard of proof, they would call it. Lami, what bothers me the most, Jen and her family set up a GoFundMe account, cremated her daughter, and using the dollars for attorney fees. Was what the girl went through and cremated for me is like she was degraded. Yeah, Lami, I don't know what to say with that. I don't know if there's any way to prove that that's what they used the money for. I don't know for sure, but it certainly is disturbing. All of these things are disturbing. And the loose ends in this, of course, are disturbing to us. And specifically, the mother, Jennifer Soto. It bothers everyone. And initially, in the first few days after this case, which was, of course, reported as a missing person case, everyone sort of identified with the mother. I'm not saying everyone, but many of people following this case identified with the mother and felt so sorry for her. But then as time started to move on, and we learned this dirtbag Stephan Sterns had lived there and it was the mother's boyfriend, to think that she had no idea what was going on does not pass the litmus test. Does not pass the litmus test of having known perhaps what was going on and having done nothing. And that's what is bothering me. Betty Spaghetti from the chat. I don't know what was going on. Honestly, nothing would surprise me at this point. I definitely think mom knew about the abuse. I think she was also involved with the murder. Wow. Something, Betty Spaghetti, I can't jump to that. I can't jump all the way to that. I have an open mind. There's something in investigation called investigative tunnel vision. And that's when you just look straight in one direction and you don't consider any other possibilities. And that's when I talk about how detectives all get together in an investigation, something like this, and they do what's called hypothesizing and theorizing. Talking about the case, Phil Grimaldi, who's a frequent co-host, he calls it spitballing. That's maybe the Brooklyn thing. But I would call it hypothesizing and theorizing. Lieutenant Pete Pranzo is in the chat. Good afternoon, Bill and police off the cuff chat friends. Lieutenant Pete, welcome. Always great to have you in the chat. London Spirit, maybe before grand jury, which hasn't happened yet. No, they something, they have all the time in the world. And, something, a defense attorney can put a request in that he's not ready. He needs more time. Has that been done yet? I don't think so. Lami, I'm so tired of these monsters are innocent until proven guilty when we know. And they know, yeah, Lami, but something, that's our system and we understand it. And we know that that's our system for everyone, whether you're the most innocent of the accused or you're the most guilty of the accused. That is our system, and it has to be for everyone. We can't just say, oh, this guy's a monster. He's not getting the same rights of the accused as someone else who we think is innocent. So it has to be for everyone. And unfortunately, yeah, people that we consider probably guilty right out of the box, you sometimes think, oh, this person doesn't deserve this.
And that Madeline was never dropped off on the morning of February 26th near her school. Instead, we believe she was already dead at the time and that Stephan Sterns moved her body in the early morning hours on that day. We have video evidence that shows Stephan Sterns discarding items in a dumpster in that apartment complex in Kissimmee at 7:35 on Monday, February 26th. Detectives later recovered Madeline's backpack and her school-issued laptop from that dumpster. At 8:19, we have evidence that shows Stephan Sterns returning to the complex and Madeline was visible in that vehicle. We believe she was already dead at that time.
Welcome back. Despite all that evidence that he's laying out, still no murder charges in this case for Stephan Sterns. All the charges that he's facing now 60 counts are all sex abuse and child sex abuse on his phone that's recorded. Look at this massive list. But I want to specifically look at one area of these charges, which are very significant, especially now in the state of Florida. Sexual battery on a child under 12, 8 counts of that, okay? Significant. The other counts are significant as well, but that's the most significant. Why? Because of a brand new law down in Florida, which went into effect on October 1st of 2023. A person 18 years of age or older, Stephan Sterns, who commits sexual battery upon or an attempt to commit sexual battery injures the sexual organs of a person less than 12 years of age commits a capital felony. It's now a potential death penalty for the sex crimes in Florida for someone under the age of 12, the victim. And you look, this goes back to 2019 now, right? Clearly under the age of 12. Going all the way to 2022, still under the age of 12 in 2022 in the summer. Now, here's the problem. The law went into effect in 2023. So is this a potential death penalty case just for the sex abuse charges? Let's bring in the think tank. Joining us live in studio tonight, criminal defense attorney, entertainment attorney, former assistant DA in Atlanta, Daryl Cohen. Also with us tonight, criminal defense attorney and Emory University law professor, Molly Palmer. And finally, family law attorney and law professor at Emory University, Randy Kessler's with us. So it's Daryl and the professors tonight. Great to see everyone. Can you punish someone for conduct back in 2022 and 2019 with a law that was passed in 2023?
I would hope so, but the answer is no, and that's spelled N-O. Unfortunately, it's called ex post facto. No.
You don't think
he deserves nothing less and nothing more.
I understand what he deserves. I want to know what the law is first.
The law, in my view, no.
Well, the lawyers, they can't. Because as he described it, and I think I explained it earlier in my layman terms, I'm not an attorney, is that someone commits a crime at a certain time, a certain year, and say it was in 2019, and the law that prohibits the crime they committed or makes it a death penalty eligible case for the crime they committed in 2019, and that law passes in 2023, then that law cannot be applied for that purpose. So that's what the attorney, and they're going to spend a lot of time talking about that right now. And so it's called ex post facto. So no, they're not. For the sex crime, he's not eligible for the death penalty. So then that concerns us, right? So that makes it even more important for the people that are pro death penalty that this murder case moves forward. But as I keep trying to explain to everyone, and I don't know if you in the chat, this applies to you, that he's not going anywhere. He's being held. He's being held in jail, and he's not going anywhere. He's not going to. He's not getting bond. He's not leaving the jail. So, as I said, law enforcement can take all the time they need to build a case against this dirtbag, right? And the other thing is, in their investigation, they may come up with more victims of this guy. I think they will. I think you put his picture out there in TV land and you ask people to come forward if they had any contact, and it doesn't matter how long ago it was. Let's find out. Let's find out if there's any more victims. Lami, it's funny, all these laws to protect these monsters, you should be allowed to have a say. The evidence is in their faces, so disgusting. Lami, as I said, it's called due process, and it applies to everyone. Lori Turner from the chat. Their interviews were BS in the news. Body language was not in correlation with words, no emotions or improper emotions. Right from the beginning, I think the police knew I was just off. You know, it's easy to, when they talk about not having a sword in the fight, it's easy to sit back and criticize. But when you're in the fight and when you're in the game and you're trying to build a case against this guy, you have to build the case by the rules. You can't violate his civil rights. You can't violate the criminal procedure law. You can't violate his due process. That's why when we spoke about when he was first brought in and the police officers were interviewing him, they knew he was a suspect numero uno. They knew he was a suspect. So what did they do? They asked permission. And I'm sure they probably got him to sign a permission to search his phone. And then they see some bad stuff in his phone. And he had thought that he did he had just wiped his phone clean, a factory reset of his cell phone. But guess what? That didn't happen. So now, I'm sure the Kissimmee police said, would you sign this consent to search your phone? And what does Dopey do? He signs it because he thinks he did a factory reset. There's nothing bad on his phone. But guess what? Everything bad was on his phone. All of the things that he didn't want the police to see was still there. So now, if I was that detective, if I was that detective boss that was there, and the detective came to me and said, Sarge, look what's on his phone. What would I do right then? I would say, stop the search of his phone. Even though you got a consent search, just to cover our butts and make sure that no real savvy defense attorney, even though it's legit to get a consent search, but a defense attorney will argue that, oh, he was terrified. The police threatened him. They'll make up stuff like that. So stop the search, go down to court, get a search warrant. You can show the judge what you've witnessed on the phone based on a consent search, and then all of the search of this phone is going to take place as per the search warrant signed by the judge. Make sense, everybody? Because, a real competent defense attorney will just say, oh, the police threatened him and he was scared, and that's why he let them search his phone. Therefore, everything they searched in that phone should be thrown out. Could that happen? Well, it all depends on the judge at a trial that says, yes, I agree, I'm going to throw out everything. But what if a judge at a trial says, yes, everything thrown out with the consent search, I'm allowing everything else in that was found later on vis-a-vis the search warrant that was issued by a judge. So it makes sense, guys. And that's what the police have to take into consideration. And if you run through an investigation like a bull in a china shop, you're going to lose things like that. So you have to understand the law and make the proper decisions. Venus Gal from the chat, whatever or one of us think about the mom, nothing we know yet is evidence for any solid charges. Law enforcement may know more, but we have nothing where we can say she needs to be charged. Venus Gal, I agree with you. And that's why law enforcement, they have to build a case against Jennifer Soto, because what happened? They got one shot at her early on, one interview. And she may have been interviewed at that time as a victim, as the mom of the missing girl, and as the mom of a homicide victim, of a murder victim. But then as time goes on and the boyfriend gets charged with this horrific crime, now they go back to reach out to Jennifer Soto, the mom. And what happens? She invokes counsel. They can't talk to her anymore because she invoked counsel. So she's got an attorney. No interview, no more interview. So they played by the rules. Now they have to build a case from the outside in rather from the inside out. And this case largely will be built on digital evidence. Folks, if you like real crime, true crime from a police perspective, then you're in the right place. And if you're not subscribed to us, go on our YouTube, hit that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, and ring that bell, and share us with your friends and your family. Make comments. I like to read your comments. And as I said earlier, it touches my heart to see how many people have suffered at the hands of abusers from all places, all over this country, all over the world. And I'm glad that this community can support you. And I hope anyone that has suffered in that way has gotten professional help to help them deal with this type of thing. Also, if you want to contribute to us financially, we have a Patreon with 3 different levels. And we also have a YouTube channel membership with, count them, 5 different levels. And you can support the YouTube family, Police Off the Cuff, by joining our channel members. You know, early on in this case also, we all remember the WFTV exclusive interview. And we watched the mom, Jennifer Soto, be interviewed, and we watched Stephan Sterns. And it's too bad he missed the Oscars, because he tried to give an Oscar-worthy performance, and it was really sort of sad. And all of the body language experts watched this guy, and they were just horrified. I'm going to play a little bit of that just to remember what we're dealing with here.
All right. The first question is if I can get your first and last name and spell them both out for me.
Stephan Sterns, Stephan Sterns.
All right, so Stephan, you seem very emotional right now. Explain to us.
I dropped her off. Everything looked fine when I drove away. It's the last time we saw her.
What were the conversations that y'all had in the car?
You see, he also spoke in the we, and it was determined that there was no we, that Jennifer was not in the car with him. It was the last time we saw her. That's a little bit suspicious, I think. I think that's a little bit deceptive that he's speaking the we.
Dropped her off.
Not much. She was asleep for most of the way. Told her have a good day at school when she got out. I love her. She said thanks, love you too. That was it.
And so where do you think she could possibly be? I mean, this isn't, as I was told, this isn't normal behavior.
This is not normal behavior. She's not the type that would just run off. We don't know where she could be, and we're scared. We just want her home.
Are you, in a sense, blaming yourself?
It's hard not to.
Why?
I dropped her off early. I could have waited longer. She looked okay. She was walking towards the school when I saw her. It was like any other day, so I went on with my day. It's hard not to blame myself.
What has the conversation been with Jen since?
She's been a lot stronger than me. She's been holding it together really well, and but it just keeps coming in waves. Just the reality keeps hitting. We don't know where she is. We don't know if she's safe. We're just scared. We just want her home.
Have you, like, literally put boots on the ground, went out?
Yeah, I even went out with the cops where I had dropped her off. And we looked all up and down the road, all over the communities, and there was nothing helpful. None of the cameras were pointing the street. Nothing, which in 2024 was surprising. The church across the street had some cameras, and they mentioned seeing her waiting around in the parking lot for a while before moving on, and that was it. But it was grainy. It was grainy footage, and not much else.
Yeah, there's no tears. There's no liquid tears that he's wiping away. He's wiping away nothing. That's part of his nominated for an Oscar-type performance.
Does it seem like she walked west, east?
They said in the direction of the school. I'm not sure what that is.
What was the language? Not language verbally, language, body language. When you dropped her off, did she seem happy? Was she like, I'm going to meet my friends?
Happy. She got a happy weekend. She just turned 13. She had a 13th birthday party. she was happy that we were all together here, and she's just very happy. She was a happy kid. She's very sweet. She's a very sweet girl. She brings a lot of joy to us, and we just not knowing.
So the unknown is killing you.
Yeah, it's like our whole world is upside down. Not feeling her presence here is. Sorry. It's hard.
I know you're fine. Don't need to apologize. What do you want our viewers to know when they see this?
She's a sweetheart. She's a very sweet, kind girl. Just please be nice to her. Bring her home if you find her. Tell her that we love her. Wherever she is, I hope she's okay.
I mean, if someone were to come in contact with her and you gave me her diagnoses, would it be easy to approach her without any like agitation or anything?
Yeah. She's a good kid. She's a good kid.
If you can sum up in one complete sentence, waking up, getting ready to drop her off at school, dropping her off at school, to now speaking to me after talking to the police about her being missing for over 24 hours right now. In one complete sentence, what would that be?
A living nightmare. It's a living nightmare. Day started off like any other. I just want to wake up. You just get hit with waves of the reality. Just it's setting in. As soon as it got dark last night. We started.
Some of you guys are referring in the chat to his trial supposed to be starting, I think, May 13th or May 15th. That they set a date. I don't believe it's going to happen that quickly because the defense hasn't answered ready. I don't think it'll happen that quickly. So, but yeah, the criminal justice system moves forward. Justice grinds slowly, and that's the next date they set for potential trial. But I don't believe it's going to happen that quickly.
We're falling apart. We knew it wasn't going to come to an end. And now we're going on 24 hours and still nothing. It's conflicting reports here and there. People say they see this or that. None of it's conclusive and none of it's helpful. We just want a baby girl back.
So that was his interview, and as we, there was so many lies in it that now we know they were just lies because she was never caught on video from that church. And I had always wondered, did the police tell them that, give them a ruse, tell them that so that they could build a story around that, which they would know was an absolute 100% lie. So police do that, guys. I don't know if you know that. And for those that would be horrified by that, in the criminal procedure law, it allows police investigators to lie to try to solicit the truth, to lie to a defendant. So you may think that that's dirty pool, but it's absolutely, absolutely legit in the criminal procedure law. So the police are playing by the rules. Some of the things we're looking at here too is that what was going on? How did these horrific things go on for this many years in this household? And we know that there's 60 charges. And on those images on the cell phone, the police identified Jennifer Soto's home as the location where these horrific crimes took place. So how, I go back to my whole dissertation, how does Jennifer Soto have no idea what happened? How could that be? How could she have absolutely no idea that this was going on when it was going on for potentially up to 5 years? How does Jennifer Soto know nothing, hear nothing, see nothing? It does not make any sense whatsoever, that she could have no idea what was going on. And this is a little girl that had just turned 13 years old. So if you go back, they're talking about it may have gone back to when she was 8 years old. And this is why the investigation needs to go forward, needs to keep digging, get more forensic evidence, get more digital evidence, cell phone evidence, computer evidence, video evidence, all of those things. And it's going to also put Jennifer Soto, it's going to put her, as Phil Grimaldi would say, in the trick bag. She's going to be included in this because she can't deny that these things were happening in her home for all the time.
Stephan Sterns, a man who... It looks like him. It looks like him, and it's scary. Now, she may have told her mother, we don't know. But how about a school teacher, a doctor, a friend, another family member? What did he do to her to keep her from telling anyone? Because this was abuse. This was ongoing abuse. This is stuff that has been memorialized, according to investigators, on his phone, despite the accidental factory reset. So this is a big question that, because she's no longer with us, we can't get the answer from Madeline. So we've got to figure it out. Investigators have to figure it out forensically, circumstantial evidence, interviews, images from a phone. Like, what did he do to her and how long was he doing this? Which brings me to another question. Why did he take the pictures? Was this for some form of self-gratification? Was it like a serial killer who's got to take something from the crime scene so they can remind themselves of it? Or was he sharing them? Was he sharing these images with someone? Was he?
You know, I really, to answer some of these questions, I think this guy was the worst perverted dirtbag you could possibly be. And I think the answer that Vinnie Politan asked in this was that I believe he was saving them for his own gratification. And what he was referring to was like a serial killer who goes back to the scene of the crime or takes a trophy to relive that experience. And I think that this dirtbag, Stephan Sterns, is and was in that category, that he wanted to relive these things. So he kept these images on his phone. And we always say in policing, thank God criminals aren't very smart, you know, because maybe we wouldn't catch them if they were so smart. And this guy's dumb as they come. He's as dumb as a rock, you know, keeping felonious images on his phone that can put him in prison for the rest of his life, which thankfully, yeah, good. It's to our benefit, but not the smartest cat in the world, right? That's going to keep images like this on his phone. And they think potentially going back 8 years, this guy. You know, there's the picture from Madeline's 13-year-old birthday party, which I think was the Sunday night before she went missing on Monday, which would have been Sunday, February 25th. On another channel, they showed, and I don't know the authenticity of it. I don't know if it's real, that a picture of Stephan Sterns in the background at her birthday party. I don't know where that picture came from. As I said, I can't verify its authenticity. But this is when we believe was the last time that that photo, the last time Madeline was seen alive. And somewhere during that birthday party on that Sunday night and the Monday morning, the 26th, is when Madeline went missing. And that's what the police are digging digging deeply into trying to narrow down that time frame so that they can determine when and where this actually occurred. And some of that digging is going to be done forensically through digital evidence, cell phone evidence, right? GPS evidence, computer evidence on a car, video evidence. All of these things, of course, take time. And the thing that all of us are waiting for is the autopsy report, which has not been released yet, has it? No. And the autopsy report, I'm the mom, that's why, from the chat, SS didn't work, so I think he made money selling Madeline's images. I'm the mom, that's why. I don't like to really put anything out there unless I can verify it. Is that possible? In an investigation, anything is possible, right? Anything is possible. Kat looking up from the chat, yes, it's a federal crime. Yes, and this whole Nancy H., I believe Madeline had aged out of his target group. If you compare her 12th birthday picture, her 13th, she had developed quite a bit. He didn't have any use for her anymore and was getting rid of a witness. Nancy H., as I just previously said, you could be right. However, unless we have definitive evidence of that, and that's almost like when we talk about motive. Is motive a necessary element of a homicide investigation? To get a conviction, do we need to prove motive? And the answer is no, we do not need to prove motive. Does a jury like to know the motive? You bet 100% they would love to know the motive, but they don't always know the motive. And as I said, it's not a necessary element to get a conviction. Venus Gal, we can't know, but I think it's very odd. It isn't confirmed that they did not live in the home of a mother, etc. One way or the other, has anyone watched the first interviews with Telemundo? I have not. One of the things that I try not to do on this channel is I try not to watch any other podcasts because I don't want to be influenced by what they said. I try to take it from the police reports and from, some respected journalists, some respected news journalists, broadcast journalists. But I think sometimes that you have to know what's true and what's not. And sometimes even the broadcast media put stuff out there that is a little bit sensational and not always believable. So I have to decide what's true and what is false and what is sensational and what is keeping with what the case really, which way it's really going. Wanda, Courtney, Chris, we have all our own opinions, and I believe the mom knew of some changes in her daughter and what he had done to her. Wanda, as I said, I would never put down anyone's opinion here. I think everyone has a right to opinion, and all these things are possibilities that could have actually happened. They're not beyond the realm. Any of these things. And as I said, when Venus Gal, Telemundo is, I know it's news. I don't speak Spanish, though. I thought Telemundo was in Spanish. And interviews with mom and grandma in early hours. I respect Telemundo and the other station. I believe it's in Spanish, isn't it, Venus Gal? So, Christina, 1973. That's why I love your content, Sergeant Bill. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Guys, again, one of the things, if there's any light at the end of the tunnel here, it's that this guy's not going anywhere. And I keep repeating it because we all wanted to see this guy go to prison for the rest of his life. Mama Bear, I believe she finally told mom screams and yelled at her, called her a liar. The mom didn't want him to leave her or didn't want to believe it. Maddie and her mom got into a fight. Look, that's a possibility. All of these things are possible. Linda S., the way the grandmother acted during her interview was really odd to me. No sense of urgency, no crying, no tears. I would be hysterical. Sarah Maddie, trust law enforcement to do what they took an oath to do. So many more good people in the world than bad. Sarah Maddie, I happen to totally agree with you. that's true. Let me go back a little bit to Vinnie Politan here.
Selling them? Was she being trafficked? What exactly is going on here? Because with these new charges, we're talking about a lot of images that they've been able to recover from perhaps one device. What else was he doing? Was there anyone else involved? Why are you taking the pictures? What are you doing with those pictures? You sharing them? Which brings us back to the first question. What did he do to her? Where's mom? Where's mom in all of this? Like, where is she like right now? Is she cooperating? Is she helping investigators figure everything out here about what happened to Madeline? Is she helping them put together the pieces? Helping them with the timeline? Giving them as much information as possible? I don't know. Where is she when all this is going on? Because initially the first images from the paperwork, the affidavits, it seemed like it was happening inside the home. Was she at work while all this is taking place? Is she home? Is her daughter telling her? A lot of questions. And I hope that Jen Soto is providing some answers to invest.
You know, he Vinnie Politan, he's sort of repeating some nonsense because we all know, I explained to everyone, she's got an attorney. No, she's not cooperating, dude. Why are you repeating nonsense? She's not cooperating because she's worried about getting charged herself. I mean, I just, sometimes news reporters act ignorant to what the reality is. No, she's not cooperating with the police right now because she's worried about her own butt, right? Because she could be implicated, I believe will be implicated and potentially will be charged. And then what happened in the house? It says what happened in the house in the arrest affidavit. Why are you going on and on about that? Deborah Vanden Heuvel, I hope I said your name correctly. Because my child was 4 and in court, she was not old enough to explain the difference between the truth and a lie. Her 17-year-old half-brother got away with it. Sick. I got divorced and took my other kids. Deborah, sorry that happened to your daughter. So horrific when something like that happens. And the relationships involved, a stepbrother, just horrific. And again, if we can, anyone wants to say anything in the chat like that, if it'll help you deal with this, to just be part of this group. I appreciate the sensitivity of it, and also that what it takes to come out and to admit something like that. And it's not that it's any shameful thing about it, but it's painful. It's a painful thing, right? Chris Iman from the chat, I've said I base my assessment on an in-depth perspective in human behavior in countless similar cases rather than assumption based on emotion. Chris Iman, that could be Iman. That's a very good quote. That's a very, very good quote. And, Liz, one of the things in police work, and I mentioned investigative tunnel vision, where you just look one direction. You can't ever do that. When things are pointing in one direction, you go that way. If that direction proves to be not true or accurate, you change direction. And sometimes in an investigation, it's very difficult to do that because you may be all invested in this one direction. But if the evidence says to you, well, it's not true, it's not, he didn't do it, or she didn't do it, then you got to change direction. As difficult as that is, as hard as that is, you sometimes have to change direction. People have mentioned Stephan Sterns could be part of a human trafficking ring. If that's true, the police will find that out. They will discover that in the course of their investigation, and they will take steps to deal with that. If there are other people involved in this, the police will take steps to deal with those people too. If Stephan Sterns is part of some big organized group of human traffickers, then the police will find that out and they will take care of that. They will do an investigation. Venus Gal from the chat, a fatal paper cut. Love your screen name, by the way. Laugh out loud. Anyhow, grandma puts something out that you think you'd want to know is fact if your grandkid is missing. A fatal paper cut, but yeah, attorney probably was retained days ago. A fatal paper cut, yes, she lawyered up several days ago. That's why when he's still talking about this, why is she not? Dude, because she lawyered up. You know the rules. You know the name of this game, all right? When someone invokes counsel, the police can no longer, and they can still investigate them. They just can't speak to them. They can't interview them any longer. Debbie Carroll, Bill, will please compare those pick dates with mom's work schedule, see if she 100%. They're also, Debbie Carroll, one of the things they're going to do also is they're going to compare the cell phones. Jennifer Soto's cell phone, Stephan Sterns' cell phone, Madeline Soto's cell phone, the GPS, the cell site information, all of those things, the computer, a work computer even. All of those things are part of this investigation. Don't forget, digital evidence is such powerful evidence. And even though it's circumstantial in many instances, it's very powerful. Schmitty, to all those in the chat that have had the courage to tell your story, it is not necessary, but thank you. So sorry for the circumstances which caused you to. Schmitty, well, thank you. And as I said, I appreciate all you folks that have come forth. And I think it takes a lot of courage. Jeannie Vo, I think the police are doing an amazing job by taking their time. When something like this so horrific, you have to cast a wider net because somebody else knew something. Yes, I think numerous people, and I mentioned the unnamed alleged witness that called. It actually was on Vinnie Politan's show too. They played this content creator's interview with him. That guy, to me, is a coward. Dude, you know something about this guy, then go to the police. Don't be going on podcasts. Ridiculous. Who is that helping? Are you getting your 10 seconds of fame? I just think it's horrific. Chris Hyman, Nancy H., unfaulty, your statement was incorrect. Children do lie about such things. This has been demonstrated a good number of times and are part of record that you can easily research. Pete Gomez, thank you for the $5 super sticker. By far the best true crime podcast because it's from police perspective, the insight into how an investigation is usually handled. Pete Gomez, thank you so much. I appreciate that. I think you got to be truthful in these things, and sometimes telling the truth isn't the most popular thing with your audience either. But I would rather stick to the facts and stick to the truths. And the sensationalism can go to other channels if they choose to be sensational. I choose not to be. And I'm not naming any names whatsoever. Rosemary Gallagher from the chat. So many rumors spinning around. I believe we will hear the truth soon enough. I'll admit it's hard, so people will become impatient. Yes, Rosemary, everyone wants to know the answers yesterday. But today is today. And we don't know the answers yet, do we? So we all have to be patient. Sarah Maddie, love you, Bill. Great job sticking to the facts that we have so far. Well, thank you. Thank you so much. Venus Gal, this is a serious question. I've heard plenty that she has lawyered up, but have never seen any way that became known or is confirmed. I don't doubt it, but never saw where that info came from. You're right. I picked that up from somewhere, and I'm not 100% sure, but suffice it to say that if she did not lawyer up, the police would have her in all the time interviewing her. And I haven't heard any reports of that. So that is somewhat some loose evidence that that she has lawyered up. And I think I believe, and I don't have the exact journalist or broadcast that said she has an attorney, but I believe that I have read that somewhere. I'm reading the chat. You know, guys, again, if you haven't hit that like button, hit that like button. If you're not subscribed, go on to our YouTube, hit the subscribe button, thumbs up, like button, share us with your friends. You know, covering this today, there's been so much already said about this, but I think that somehow it gives our audience comfort, at least to come into the show and into the chat and speak about it, because it is a horrific case, and we are all waiting. And look, just the other day was when these 60 new charges came in. Everyone was interested. What the hell happened? And it just confirmed all of our fears about Stephan Sterns, and just showed that he's a bigger monster than we even knew of to begin with, you know. And we'll always remember these photos on the screen of Madeline missing, and then of course Stephan Sterns' mugshot there, you know. We will get through this case, all of us. We definitely will. Folks, if you're looking for a great attorney in the New York metropolitan area, then Joe Murray is your man. Joe's a retired NYPD police officer and a fantastic defense attorney. You can reach Joe on his cell at 718-514-3855. Email him at joe@jmurray-law.com. Go on his website, jmurray-law.com. Not only is Joe a fantastic defense attorney, but a huge supporter of the Police Off the Cuff podcast. There's a picture of Joe there saying, "What do you want from me?" in his New York accent. So, folks, I'm going to stay, of course, with this. Joanne from the 77PL from the chat. There's an extensive phone chat on YouTube with some man, David Solomon, who claims to be SS victim from many years ago. He's very vocal about SS guilt and many horrific crimes. Are you talking, Joanne, that he became a perpetrator? Because many times victims of this crime become abusers themselves. And I would hate to hear that, but that happens to be a true thing that we know, we recognize. Psychologists, police that have been in this business recognize that that's a distinct possibility, that the abused becomes an abuser. Chris Iman, Malibu surfer. As I contributed in the beginning, her death was sexually motivated. There's been no such mention or discussion of this on any channel or in the media. Well, I think, Chris, I think we all recognize that, especially since the number one suspect in her murder, Stephan Sterns, who they found all those images on his phone. So I think that's sort of, I think we all accept that. And Joanne 77PL, David Solomon was a victim, that was a writer and a supportive help for that type. Well, thank you. Thank you for clearing that up, because I wasn't sure what you were referring to. Christian Froschheiser. No, I think he was saying that SS perpetrated against that guy, not that he became a perpetrator in this. Okay, it was cleared up, Kirsten. Thank you. That's Kirsten. That's Froschheiser. I guess that's a German name, right, Kirsten? Nice name. I hope I said your last name right. Froschheiser. Ace, Jerry Lowry from Ohio, molested kids, got away with it. Death sentence from victim justice. You know, all of these cases are horrific. Very German, Kirsten Froschheiser. Yeah, I thought it was. Simply Tanika, I appreciate the straightforward coverage. Thank you. Simply Tanika, thank you. I had a lot of students, the name Tanika, Tamika, and a lot of different students with. I remember there was a girl named Tiffany, and she insisted that her name was Tiffany, but it was spelled Tiffany. And if you said Tiffany, she'd go Tiffany. Okay. I won't forget ever again. I'll always call you Tiffany. Anyway, folks, that's our show for today. Thank you so much for tuning in on this afternoon. when new information comes in, we learn new info on this show, on this topic, I will 100% come on the air and report it to you guys. And I just want to thank you again. This is Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories. I'm your host, retired NYPD Sergeant Bill Cannon. And I want you to have a wonderful day and a wonderful upcoming weekend. Have a great day.
One episode just ain't enough.